ECU?
Do you bleed purple and gold?
Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Watch the show live on Facebook
And at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Monday, June 2nd edition. The Pirate baseball season has come to an end. ECU falls in the Conway Regional final to the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Coastal moving on to the Super Regional, but it was a great weekend of baseball, fun weekend of baseball in Conway. We'll get into that, so much more. Just got back this morning. We've got a lot to break down and discuss. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. So drop your question, your comments, anything you guys want to address. I'm sure there's plenty. As the Kevin O'Sullivan situation, we'll get to that. I just realized I'm wearing a Florida Gators color shirt, so this is in honor of Coach O'Sullivan. But crazy situation there. ECU baseball in a spot that nobody expected them to be in a couple weeks ago, puts up a valiant effort, defeats Florida twice, pushes Coastal in the first final game last night, falls 1-0. Despite a Bradley Zayak legacy performance. Unexpected, but ECU could not get a run across to find a way to answer Coastal's one run in the 1-0 loss. So we got a lot to get to. And again, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how this show is going to go, we'll obviously talk a lot of big picture in the days to come. We'll also look back at the season as a whole. You know, more than welcome to read those comments today as well. But for today's show, it'll be more of a reaction to the weekend as a whole, the Conway Regional, how it went, some of the top storylines and all of that. So we got a lot to get to. And then, of course, we got many more shows ahead to talk about the portal, who's entering, who's not, who's coming back, the future, et cetera. So a lot to get to. Philip Pilkington is back in the 94.3 The Game studios. He produced most of the games this weekend. And Philip, man, there's nothing like postseason baseball. Being in it in person was incredible. I'm sure as you listened to the call and followed on TV, it was pretty special as well. So just overall thoughts on the weekend before we dive into the specifics.
Yeah, overall, man, it was a solid weekend. You mentioned postseason baseball is great. I guess the one perk to not going is you get to watch a lot of other postseason baseball. Get to be a huge fan. Me and Chris, I think at one time in the studio, had 3 other screens going on, as well as obviously listening to the ECU game. But as for the weekends for the Pirates, look, you hit on it. We didn't think we were going to be here a couple weeks ago. And with that being said, that doesn't mean that you just show up and you're happy to be there and you play bad. But they showed up and proved that they deserve to be there. Beat an SEC team twice and really played 2 bad innings of baseball. And I can't remember if it was Jake Hunter or Riley Johnson hit on that in the postgame. Said if you get rid of the 8th and the 9th inning on Saturday, overall it was a really good weekend. You push, like you said, the team who ends up winning the regional to the tightest game that they played throughout the entirety of the regional. You lose 1-0 in a great pitcher's duel. Look, I think the Pirates should be proud. You know, it's tough when you lose in the heat of the moment for the players, the coaches, the fans. But right now that we can look back and reflect on this weekend as a whole, I think that every player went out there and left it all on the line. Some guys performed better than others. Some guys performed better than they've performed all year long. And I think that this weekend nobody has anything to be ashamed of except for maybe Coach O'Sullivan. But no one in the Pirate program or the Pirate fans should be ashamed. Pirate Nation, you guys showed out great. I heard they ran out of beer down the right field line on Saturday night because you guys were drinking like pirates. So proud of you guys for that. They were only down to seltzers. Good job not being a sorority girl and buying all the seltzers up. Unless you are a sorority girl, then it's okay. But hey, man, just really proud of the team this weekend. Fought hard and – look, they left it out on the line. You just hate it for Jake and Riley especially.
Yeah, there's nothing more those 2 guys could have done. We'll get to them. There's some of their post-game comments as well. And I do want to echo your sentiments. Look, ECU fans, for a regional that I'm sure nobody really expected to have to travel this weekend to go see the Pirates play a few weeks ago, as ECU was on the outside looking in, so they ran the table in the conference tournament. For the amount of ECU fans that showed up, it's just incredible. It speaks to Pirate Nation saw so many people obviously that are a member of our site, Hoist the Colors, and just so many familiar faces. Jacob Starlin, Joey Barini, Jake Washer. I saw several former ECU players there as well. Like, the support East Carolina baseball got this weekend is second to none. I mean, there was a decent amount of Florida fans and obviously Gainesville further away, but like ECU baseball, it just means more, as the SEC saying. Well, it means more to ECU as well. So, just want to congratulate really the ECU fans who showed out, because I thought that they did a phenomenal job backing the team, providing atmosphere. Obviously, congrats to Coastal Carolina. Incredible baseball team. 21 straight wins, 51 wins overall. They can pitch, as Cliff Godwin said. They can beat you in so many different ways. They played clean defense. They run the bases. You look at the decisive run in the finale. Guy gets on first. He's the 9-hole hitter, and he advances to second on a fly ball, tagging up, and then he gets to third on, the wild pitch, which, I'm sure Walker Barron was gassed after catching 2 straight games to end a long weekend, and then, of course, the sac fly. So they do the small things. They do the big things to win baseball games. You don't win 21 in a row or 51 games overall. ECU just kind of ran into a buzzsaw there, and the Pirates pushed them. And ECU also had to defeat Florida twice, which we'll get into that. When Coastal Carolina did not have to even play Florida, which I think played a role. But I just thought the overall, first time at Springs Brooks Stadium, incredible venue. The boardwalk around the stadium just makes for great sight lines. The berms are great. There's not a ton of seats, but obviously any seat is a great spectator view of the game as well. And I thought just the way it was ran, the music kind of between innings, the moments, kind of the interaction with the crowd, the PA guy, like everybody involved with the game day operations there did an incredible job. So I think for sure it's something ECU, which has obviously hosted a bunch of regionals, can learn from as well. The concessions. The one thing they didn't do was feed the media. So that led me to the concession line a few times. But, hey, when I went, Philip, it took about 30 seconds to get my food. They had it ready to go, and that was a breath of fresh air as well. So I just saw the overall experience. I mean, obviously, you take away, it'd be great if ECU won the regional and they were still playing at Auburn this coming weekend. But, like, the experience and kind of just seeing it all firsthand, and just as a fan of sports and a fan of baseball, it was an awesome weekend. And I recommend, obviously next year ECU's playing at Coastal in a regular season series. It won't be as packed or buzzing, but I definitely recommend people to go to that. So, Philip, you up for a road trip next March?
I am definitely. The interesting thing is going to be, is basketball at home and all that. But I'm ready to start talking about it. And it's good to hear that you guys were treated so well. Mike Mullis and Dylan Johnson went in on the end of the broadcast, as well as personally to me, and just talked about the way that they were treated by the athletic administration at Coastal Carolina. And they said they could tell by the way that they were treated that the athletic department there values everyone equally. Anyone that steps into their ballpark, whether it be their highest of high donors or someone in the custodial staff, they treat everyone very well. We're going to talk about it later, but you hear their coach going out of his way to talk about how good the grounds crew is there. And just there's a lot of respect in that program, and I know that a lot of people here, don't really like Coastal, and especially after that bowl game, Joey football can't stand Coastal. But at the end of the day, Class A, act out of those guys. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they did at least have water for you guys in the press box, right? It wasn't like
they had
Charlotte
water and caffeine.
It wasn't like Charlotte where we had to go buy our own water. They couldn't even have bottled water in the press box. So at least they're not that.
We did get liquids, and there was a area for food. I did go over and try to get some, but I was informed it wasn't for the media. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just go and buy it from the concession stand. But again, solid showing otherwise. All right, so some comments here. The Pirate Pulse, Chance Scott, he was down in Conway. He says, what a ride these guys gave us. I hope you had a safe ride home. Yeah, got back around 10 a.m. this morning. Still a little bit on fumes, but that is the price of covering sports, and it's a lot of fun as well. Chuck says, I'm going to start donating to Club 23. So Chuck is in for the donations. Again, we'll get more into the portal and all that stuff Shore says he just saw the tweet where Kevin Schnall, the Coastal Carolina head coach, was talking about Kevin O'Sullivan, the Florida coach. He says that's wild, no class there. We'll get to that here in a minute. Cameron says, I don't know if I'd be able to handle UTSA and Coastal making it to Omaha. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this, and we can get to this more in the days ahead as well, Cameron. But part of me wants it to happen because it's good for the sport. But also, if UTSA makes it to Omaha in their first super regional try, there's definitely going to be some jealousy there, so I get it. Johnny Robertson says Coastal average margin of victory during this 21-game winning streak is 6.05 runs per game. T-Mac says great season considering where we were a month ago. Kind of figured we just ran out of gas and really don't blame them. That would be asking a lot from such a young team. And then Cameron adds, Coastal is a team full of juniors and seniors. It was crazy seeing all our guys come up as freshmen and sophomores still being able to compete. Not sure why it took so long to come together. Sports are weird, Philip. We know that. Look no further than the finale. Everybody, I was texting Case and Romeli and our crew that was down there. I was like, this game, my prediction for the finale on Sunday was 12-8 ECU. And, of course, ECU didn't score a run. And Bradley Zayak pitched the game of his life. But you look at the weekend, Austin Irby, incredible weekend as a freshman. Braden Burris, I know he didn't have his best weekend, but still had some huge moments. Sean Jenkins, I thought, did his job. He threw strikes. He didn't look overwhelmed by the moment. Lance Williams was phenomenal against Florida. Bradley Zayak, legacy game. Ethan Norby, we forget, he's just a sophomore. And Alex Peltier, I thought, had a great weekend as a freshman. So, the dividends this could pay going forward is just incredible. I was worried this team would be overwhelmed by the moment, but they weren't. They belonged, and I think that's a great sign for the future, and certainly something these guys going into next year are going to expect to be here and expect to deliver in those moments, Philip.
Yeah, look, it's one thing to go out there and, hey, maybe the other team played bad, or, hey, maybe you got a lucky bounce. I don't think that was the situation. And I was talking to Mike Mullis before the game last night, and he even mentioned that he thought that Zayak had the best body language that he had seen out of Zayak all season long. And you talk about Lance Williams. He was given the ball in a tough spot, right? You're going out there playing in a regional. He's a freshman. Sean Jenkins, who I think the talent is 100% there, but sometimes the moment this year has been too big for him. But he is so matured down the stretch into the conference tournament, into this regional. And look, you can't say enough about guys who get put in situations they've never been in before, and they don't back down. They don't back down mentally. Look, it's one thing if you're a pitcher and you go over there and you miss over the white and you give up a bomb. So what? That's life. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. But this team played with the attitude of a veteran team. When the going got tough, they played with the maturity of a veteran team. And like we said, they're young. We've been saying it all year, and it's been kind of almost used as a downside, but now we can use it as an upside. Look, they're young. I mean, I'm going to miss Riley Johnson as an outfielder, as a human being. Same thing to be said with Jake Hunter as a pitcher and a human being. That's about all that's leaving. This core group is young, this core group is hungry, and this core group has what it takes. They have what it takes to be a successful baseball player because they're all great young men, and they have a great leader at the helm in Cliff Godwin.
Some more comments. We'll get a break in here in a minute. Johnny Robertson says nothing but 100% confidence from Bradley Zayak from the moment he took the mound. Jonathan says this was huge for baseball to make it as far as they did. I'm super excited for the boys. The key now is player retention and bringing in key additions. T-Mac adds, got to have this core group back, plus Norby. Cliff is definitely laying the foundation for another classic Godwin team. Jonathan with a question on additions. We'll get to that if we can later in the show or later in the week. And then Danny Rice saying incredible coaching job this season with the young team and many challenges. Kenny Curlin says so proud of how the baseball Pirates finish off the season. Great effort and 2 butt kickings of an SEC team was good for Pirate Nation. Florida head coach acts like a clown. All right, so there's your comments. Keep them rolling. We'll continue to read those on this Reaction Monday. We do have a question from from, let's see if I can find it real quick. Got several windows open. From Graham about preferential treatment by Coastal Carolina at the regional. I disagree with that. We'll get into that, though. Certainly, Kevin O'Sullivan thinks that other teams got preferential treatment besides the Gators, but we'll address that later. I do want to talk about Riley Johnson, Jay Cunner on the other side as well. We'll play that cut. So we'll get a break in. We'll come back, hoist the colors, more on the Conway Regional after this.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
Are you ready to tackle those yard and garden projects? Come by East Carolina Tractor and Fleet, your local Coyote dealer, and check out their great selection of residential and commercial Coyote tractors. From zero-turn mowers to compact tractors to skid steer loaders, they've got you covered. Some with 0% financing for qualified buyers. Stop by your hometown Coyote dealer, East Carolina Tractor and Fleet, across from the Pitt County Fairgrounds, or online at ectfleet.com. East Carolina Tractor and Fleet. We dig dirt.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
At Parker's Barbecue, our family has been serving your family for 3 generations.
For that, we say thank you.
Blessing families every Thursday. Kids eat free all day. That's the Parker's way.
Legendary food served from our 3 locations. Always quick, always delicious. That's the Parker's way.
At Parker's, our mission is to impact our customers through Christ-like service in a way that feeds them both physically and spiritually. That is the Parker's way.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout Eastern North Carolina. Get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Pirates play here.
Time to play the game.
This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors. Second segment here, recapping the Conway Regional. Pirates come up short. Coastal Carolina going to the Supers, but fun weekend of baseball. We'll get more into the specifics over the course of the remaining hour. Continue to drop your comments. We got a lot of them. As Coach Raffi says, Austin Irby gave me Bryant Packard vibes all weekend. And I can see that for sure. Some clutch hitting by the young buck. Amanda Boyd says not much talk about Dixon Williams, but he won't be back next season due to draft, and he was a true Pirate as well. I agree, Amanda. Dixon had a huge home run. I tell you what, man, the first 6 innings of Saturday night's game were incredible. And I know, Philip, the game got away from ECU, and then at one point they just had to start throwing guys who just have struggled this year to save pitching, and I get it, but I don't know, like that was like the back and forth of those 6 games. And again, I give Coastal a ton of credit because you get the runs to take the lead, they answer. Dixon hits the home run, they answer. Irby hits the home run, they answer. Like they answered every time. And when you've won 21 games in a row, you never feel like you're going to lose. And so, like, I just think Coastal is, I don't want to say they're a team of destiny. We'll see how they do at Auburn, but they answered. But I thought this Saturday game, and I know it ended up lopsided, you look at the first 6 innings of Saturday and the Sunday finale, like just peak postseason baseball for me. Like every pitch felt like the difference between winning and losing. And to me, it doesn't get much better. So there were just so many standout performances over the weekend. Just before we get into Riley and Jake Hunter, a little more on them. Who do you think really stood out as an individual or two from this weekend for the Pirates?
Man, it's tough to really, I think, pinpoint anybody. You mentioned Peltier and the weekend he had. That kind of came, I wouldn't say out of nowhere. I mean, heck, he's hitting in the 2-hole, but just kind of the end of the season he had. But I'm just going to go with the pitching staff as a whole. Yeah, I know Brad Pruitt, which is he could get this weekend to do over again. But we said the key to winning this was going to be staying ahead when it came to the pitchers and not getting into a situation where you didn't have any arms. And I thought, for all intents and purposes, they did that. If they were playing today, would they be behind the 8 ball? Sure, but you're playing your 5th game in 4 days. You're behind the 8 ball by default unless you have a major league pitching staff. No team in college baseball does. So I'm just going to kind of go with the staff as a whole. Norby to do what he did and eat as many innings as he was able to, for us to throw then Jake Hunter but still have him available for Sunday. We talked about it going into, what was it, yesterday morning. It was like everybody but the Ethans are going to be hot. And when you go into having to play 2 games on a Sunday and you have only 2 pitchers who are not going to be hot after 2 days of baseball, you're doing a pretty damn good job on the mound. So I'm just going to go with the staff as a whole.
Somebody asked on Facebook, is Ethan Young going to go to the draft? I would say Ethan Young is definitely gone. Like, Ethan Young is a special, special talent, and he needs to go 98 miles per hour. Here's the thing with Ethan Young, along with Dixon Williams. Both of them have to go. Dixon's a 3-year graduate. He's done everything he could. I was talking to somebody up in the box yesterday who's very sourced, has a lot of sources in the industry. The thing that hurts Dixon is his defensive, his defense and his arm, but like his bat and his speed and his power are going to play. And so teams want him in the 5 to 10 round range from what I'm hearing. And then Ethan Young, dude's up to 98, wicked off speed. He's got 2 or 3 legitimate off speed pitches. And he became a long guy for ECU this year. In reality, he profiles as a back end reliever. And if he only had to throw 1 inning or 2, I think, you would even see that stuff tick up even more rather than have to go out there and throw 60, 70, 80 pitches. So both those guys are gone. They should go, barring something crazy happening. And, they need to go just from the standpoint of what's best for their career. So definitely wanted to give them a shout out because they performed admirably all season. All right, let's hear from Jake Hunter, Riley Johnson, the 2 seniors who have meant so much to this team, this fan base, just laying it all on the line. I asked them they get to go out knowing that they really couldn't have done anything more individually, just putting their bodies on the line. Here is Jake Hunter, Riley Johnson after their final games as a Pirate.
Right, obviously, it sucks to lose in a year and stuff like that, but I was just so proud. Last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, nobody really believed we'd be here. If you told me 3 weeks ago that we'd be playing a regional championship game, I probably would have thought you were crazy. Obviously I had full belief in my teammates, but I'm just so proud of, how we came together the last 3 weeks and competed. I mean, that's just Pirate baseball. Competed all 9 innings except for, 2 innings yesterday, but it was just, obviously just sucks to lose at the end of the year.
It's tough. It's tough. I don't know if I'll ever play baseball again. I would love a shot, but I'm not just good at outfield. I can hit too. But if I could go back and do it all again, I would 100 times. The lessons I've learned here throughout the 5 years, the people I've met, things I've done, it's awesome. This place is awesome. It's home. I call Greenville home. Coach D has always been there for me through my ups and downs. Jake, I love you, man. You've always been there for me We never gave up on this team. That's why I came back. I could have shut it down. Could have came back another year, but 6 years is a lot. But I believed in this group since day one, and we never gave up on each other. And I'm gonna tell them after we get back, I'm just happy they didn't give up. They didn't give up on themselves. They didn't give up on the team. We laid everything out. It's hard. It is. This place is home.
All right, there's Riley Johnson, who spoke second there, and then Jake Hunter. And Philip and I were talking pre-show as we get a comment from John Moody, says, hats off to Jake Hunter, pitched his tail off yesterday afternoon. Yeah, I mean, Jake Hunter, if it wasn't his last performance at the time, as far as like if he didn't know for sure, but it sure felt like it. He was out there, he was emptying the tank, he was throwing 93, 94 miles per hour. Bobby Bozer for Florida hit a no doubt 3-run homer on Friday, and then he came up again. And Jake Hunter, you could just tell, man, he reared back and he threw it by him a couple times, and then caught him looking at a fastball on the outside corner. And I'm sure that felt pretty good. You could tell that he was fired up. And look, to beat Florida twice is a heck of an achievement, even if it's not the best Florida team. We'll get more into the O'Sullivan thing in our next segment. And then Riley Johnson, like Phil, he wasn't even in the starting lineup for the finale. And you could see pregame he was over there with the training staff, like just trying to will himself to go. He could barely run, but he found a way to convince the training staff and Coach Godwin to put him in the lineup. And look, he didn't have his best game, but like you can't – if he was able to walk, he was going to play in that game. And so like that just kind of personified the Riley Johnson story. He was going to play no matter what.
Yeah, so I get in the studio and I pull up Stat Broadcast, and nothing against Davin Whitaker, but he's not a senior playing his last college baseball game, and Davin Whitaker's in the lineup, and I'm like, dang, we may never watch Riley Johnson play a Pirate uniform again unless we can win tonight. And then Dylan comes on and says, hey, man, there's been a late change to the lineup. Riley's going to play. And, man, like, I got goosebumps because, like, obviously we didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but Riley could have quit so many times. And had he quit, it wouldn't have been that he's a quitter. It's just been that his body quit on him. But he's pushed through more pain than anybody who's ever put on a Pirate uniform over the last 2 years to fight back, to come back this year. This is a guy whose freshman year was getting in 2-3 innings at the end of a game here and there. In the outfield, they'd sub him in and right, give JC a breath or give, Lane maybe an inning or two off. And Riley fought through it, became a starter, became a Gold Glover. And then, I was a little worried in the first game when he dove that one time and hit his shoulder. Oh, crap, that might be it. And it wasn't. And it was just awesome to see him go out there and get to play in his last college baseball game. And Jake, look, this team would have not been here without Jake Hunter. I really believe that. Yes, his ERA is in the 4s. He's not the best pitcher on the team, but he threw 49 innings in the regular season. And then he threw every single game in the conference tournament. And then he came out, and I firmly believe had he not pitched well against Florida and gotten us in a hole, we would have – I don't know who would have came in next, but I have a gut feeling we lost that baseball game. And the fact that he was able to rise to the occasion in his final appearance in a Pirate uniform, I was so happy for him. I hate that for both those guys that it had to end. I wish it ended in Omaha. But if it was going to end, I think both those guys left it out on the line. They have put 4 and 5 years into this program. They are true Pirates, not only because of their talent, but just their character. And I mean, we could go on all day and do a whole Riley Johnson and Jake Hunter show, just the men that they are and how cool it's been to get to know them over the last few years.
No doubt. And as a matter for the game, seeing Barini and Starlin and Washer and all those guys, like that's going to be them, in the coming years. I have no doubt they'll be a part of the family for years to come. If Riley Johnson doesn't keep playing baseball, which he had a good line in there about, hey, I can't just I'm not only a great outfitter, I can hit a little bit too. I don't know if he's going to go into coaching, but he seems like he's cut out to be a coach. So we'll see what happens with that. But, proud of those guys, man. It's always cool to see the development from freshmen to their senior year and just see how much they grow and become a part of the family. So awesome careers for both those guys, along with so many others, and Dixon, Ethan Young as well. Drew says that Jack Herring, to me, played very well. Yeah, Jack Herring had a huge weekend and a huge second half of the year, and he's got another year of eligibility. He's a Greenville Yard Gnome legend. He threw out the first pitch the other day, right?
He did, yeah.
So the real question is, who are the Pirates going to pluck from the Yard Gnomes again this year? That's what I'm going to have my eye on.
Let's do it. I said Peltier earlier. I guess I didn't mean to say Herring. I always get confused who's batting 2, who's batting 8. So, yeah, it was Herring that I meant to say.
Peltier had a good weekend, too, though.
Had a good weekend,
both
man.
of them.
Yeah, he had a clutch hit. It was in that second game last night that we weren't able to bring him in, but had a clutch hit in the 6th or the 7th. I think it was the 7th. Yeah, bottom of the 7th.
Yeah, opposite way. Yep.
Yeah, or top of the 7th, whichever inning we were batting in, or whatever half the inning. But, yeah.
All the games run together in a weekend like this. But
I'm not going to lie. I tuned into 35 to 40 other games that weren't ECU on top of the ECU games, so.
There was a lot of baseball in a short amount of time, but that's what makes it fun. All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, we will address the Kevin O'Sullivan situation. I'll share what I heard, what I know, and what the fallout is from the Florida coach going on a bit of a rant at multiple people, it seems, with a lot of cursing. So we'll address that on the other side. This is Hoist the Colors.
Hey, it's Jim Wells again with Wells Roofing and Gutters here in the beautiful community of Lindale, Bedford. At Wells Roofing and Gutters, we believe in quality first, and that's why we use CertainTeed shingles, which are manufactured in Oxford, North Carolina, a local company. In the event you ever do have a claim or a problem with your roof system, they're local and they come and take care of us in a timely manner. We could leave off some accessories and we could certainly save money, but we believe at Wells Roofing and Gutters in installing the correct way per manufacturer requirements, and we warranty your roof both in-house and also with our supplier, who is CertainTeed. For a job Wells done, no shortcuts taken, and a good quality job on your home, give us a call today, 252-227-8403. We also offer financing, 12 months, no interest, no payments.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Get ready to board.
We're live with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game. Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, back on Hoist the Colors. We've talked a lot of ECU baseball. We'll get more into that in the coming days, just about the state of the program, going into the offseason, the roster, all that. So the Kevin O'Sullivan situation has obviously gone viral. There are many angles to this. Florida head coach Kevin O'Sullivan, national championship winning coach, longtime coach for the Florida Gators. Video has surfaced of him berating a couple NCAA site reps, one of which is Mark Scaff, former UNCW longtime head coach, basically like what Gary Overton does now, where he travels and represents the NCAA at some of these regional sites. So Kevin O'Sullivan, if you haven't followed the story, he was upset that the games that his teams were playing in were pushed back. Now, Florida played the early game on Friday and Saturday. And so Florida, from their perspective, I guess, felt like it was an advantage for the opposing team that the games were pushed back. Now, it was a 1 hour change, and O'Sullivan was upset that the call was made at 1:30 a.m. on Saturday night. So the game went from what was scheduled to be a 12 noon start to a 1 p.m. start. Now, I was texted at 1:26 a.m. I just checked my phone from a high-level ECU administrator that the game time was being changed. So the ECU found out at about the same time. Of course, they were up because the game ended near midnight. So I don't understand I don't understand, like, it's an hour difference. It's not like they pushed the game back 4 hours. So I think just clearly some entitlement, some bullying, as Coastal Carolina head coach Kevin Schnall said. If you've seen the video, you can understand why it's phrased that way as bullying, because he's just kind of laying into guys left and right with a whole bunch of F words and this and that. So I just thought, I don't know if it's the SEC mentality or just not sure what his state of mind was, but just very disappointing. And, you know, that's not even – that's one side of it. The other side of it is, this is what a team source texted me. O'Sullivan just did the craziest thing. This is a quote. O'Sullivan just did the craziest thing I've ever seen by a head coach. He is mad that the NCAA moved the game back an hour after us going late last night. Parker Bird is walking in with a big whiteboard, and O'Sullivan said, "Hey, shove that up your rear and continue to cuss out our players. Very random and unprompted, needs to be known." So that side of things hasn't really been reported as much as the cursing of the site reps and Coastal Carolina team personnel. But that happened as well, per various team ECU sources that also said that provided extra motivation for the game. So, look, there's a lot here to unpack. Philip Pilkington, before we get to the audio, and I do want to give a shout out to Brian Bailey, which we'll do in a minute, but man, just, I don't know, like as somebody who was on the outside looking in at this thing, what was your take on it? It almost seemed, when I first got the text, I was almost like in disbelief that this would have happened. So I don't know, just it almost seems unbelievable, but it is true.
Well, Addison just texted me and said that O'Sullivan should be fined or fired. So obviously, Pirate fans not real happy with this one. You know, the thing is, man, the game getting pushed back till 3 on Saturday. Like, that's going to happen when a team doesn't get done till 1:33 the night before. Yes, did they make the call a little late on Saturday night, I guess Sunday morning for the Sunday game, and he had already probably sent his kids to bed and had a wake-up hour based off when they thought they were going to be there? Yeah, but part of the reason the ECU game ran late is because y'all were running up the score on Fairfield. If your guys' game didn't take 4 hours, the ECU game would have started on time and ended on time, and then the game would have been played at noon the next day. So maybe you shouldn't have ran up the score on Fairfield. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's not benefiting your opponent that much. It's just trying to not make these players have quick turnarounds. We see it all the time. You get it in pro sports. You don't get it as much, but there has been times where if a game has to get pushed back for one reason or another, and, I know the NHL has rules, so say like you have a day game one day and your night game the night before, there's some issue with the event, with the arena, it can force them to push games back. This has happened before. It happens all the time at regional. Almost every region in the Southeast dealt with some kind of weather. Really, the only ones I think that were safe were the 3 West Coast regions. Maybe one of the ones in Texas was okay. But just grow up. I mean, at the end of the day, I understand your frustration, but why are you taking it out on people that had nothing to do with it? If you want to call up ESPN and say, you moved our game to ESPNU at 1 o'clock and cuss out Mickey Mouse, okay, who cares? But, kids walking in to an arena or a stadium and then supposed to be cussed out the grounds crew for Coastal, Okay, if I was Coastal's ground crew, I said, okay, you know what? We're going to dump a bunch of rocks on the infield. Go play on that. I hope all your players get hurt. Like, I just don't get it, man.
That's my thing. Like, okay, if O'Sullivan's upset, that's okay. I mean, just address it like a man and have a one-on-one conversation behind closed doors, or call the NCAA. I mean, to just like go out on the field and just start cussing people left and right in front of everybody is just unprofessional and just uncalled for. So look, lack of class for sure. And look, I'm glad it got out. I think everybody. I was talking about this with Brian Bailey, who was the first to report it, and shout out Brian, did a phenomenal job. WNCT of reporting what happened, because if you see on the video, he was there and he kind of took in what O'Sullivan was saying, and also followed up, with that he said something. O'Sullivan said something to the ECU players as well, and Bailey kind of addressed it in the post game and made sure that it was out there. And then I think everybody was in unison: Coastal, ECU, the media, that like, all right, this can't go like unanswered for. Like, there has to be this has to be addressed. And I think it was. The video got out. Kevin Schnall, the Coastal coach, will play that cut in a minute, addressed it. Cliff Godwin, I think it was tough for him because look, he was in the middle of having an hour turnaround for the next game, his team's most important game this season. And then post game, it was kind of an emotional time, so it wasn't the right time to ask about it. But I'm sure Cliff Godwin will comment on it further at some other media availability. But I think everybody was in unison. This had to be addressed somehow, and it was. We'll see if Kevin O'Sullivan says anything about it publicly. But let's get to we'll play the cut of Brian Bailey asking O'Sullivan after Florida's lost to ECU, at the press conference. They had a back and forth. Bailey asked 2 or 3 times if O'Sullivan wanted to address it or if he handled it. Here's that exchange.
Coach, could you address the situation before the game?
I don't address that right now.
Nothing there, apology or anything like that?
I handled it properly.
You handled
at the end of the game, yes.
You handled it? Philip, do you think he handled it?
I mean, he probably said he was sorry. He probably gave a half-butt apology.
He should have apologized there too, man.
Yeah. I mean, that what he did, I think, warrants a public apology to everybody. That's not one of those things where it's like, hey, man, when I got ejected, I then continued to say something to the umpire. I talked to the umpire privately after the game. And no, this is like, you made a fool out of yourself to multiple people. There should be a public statement for sure.
Jameson says, hey, Coach, win your games and avoid the inconvenience. He was clearly butthurt. So
it's true. You're in the winner's bracket on this problem.
And how about ECU putting the belt on twice in a row to the Florida Gators, which was pretty incredible as well. All right, so after Coastal Carolina won the regional, so I was sitting in the other room writing about the ECU game. And to kind of provide some context, the room that I was writing in is like across the hall from the press conference room. So I attended ECU's press conference, and then I was trying to get back at a decent time. So I went to the writing room, and as I was writing towards the end of Coastal's press conference, I heard Schnall just go on this rant. And I was kind of in disbelief because he was not asked about it. The Coastal Carolina coach, Kevin Schnall, just brought it up on his own. So at the end of his team just won a regional championship. He feels the need to bring this up. Here's Kevin Schnall talking about the Kevin O'Sullivan situation.
One last thing I have is I have to say this, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but I believe in standing up for what's right, and what transpired this morning on our field. Another coach disrespected our associate AD, who works as hard as anybody in our entire program. He disrespected our field crew, who are the salt of the earth. These guys would do anything for our program. It's not okay. And this needs to be brought up. Absolutely disrespectful. As a coach, it's our job to mentor young kids. And the way he treated the 2 site reps, the way he treated our associate AD, the way he treated our field crew is absolutely unacceptable. And that's what I'm most disappointed about. This is a national champion coach who thinks he can come in here and try to bully people around. Disappointed. Disappointed, somebody that a lot of coaches look up to. For him to act that way, really disappointed. He disrespected a Hall of Fame coach who's the site rep here. That's all I got to say.
All right, there's Kevin Schnall, Coastal Carolina head coach. Again, Coastal did not even play Florida, which was a bit of a break because Florida will make you utilize some of your best arms. But, man, some fireworks at the end of the press conference. And I guess what, karma's karma, Philip. The Gators, they had a nice win over Fairfield, but I guess it came back around to bite O'Sullivan. Pirates got the best. And look, ECU did not win the regional, but in some ways it feels like a pretty big victory, beating an SEC team in Florida pretty handily twice.
Yeah, and to beat a team where the coach told your player who is a manager for the regional where he can stick a whiteboard. I mean, there's got to be a little, victory to that. But look, just a lot of respect for Schnall for going out of his way to do this. He didn't have to do that. I'm sure that he and O'Sullivan, these coaches have coaches meetings, are going to cross paths in the future. That's going to make that encounter probably a little awkward, but I think he did the right thing. Shows you the kind of man he is, shows the character. Obviously, he had a great mentor as he was an assistant so long, there at Coastal under Coach, why am I drawing a blank on his name? I can picture his face. The guy who won the national championship.
Gary Gilmore.
Gilmore, yeah. So, obviously, he had a great mentor, but it just shows you the kind of person Schnall is to go out of his way and do that and stick up for the grounds crew, the administration. And I think when a coach, O'Sullivan, for example, sees one of his peers calling him out, they're going to take that a lot more to heart than, us, the media members, or the fans calling him out. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm a coach. I don't care about the media. I don't care about the fans. But when your peers start to call you out and call you a jerk pretty much, publicly, hopefully that'll tell O'Sullivan, look, dude, you crossed the line.
I do know that East Carolina, I do know that there was a major media member there that reached out to O'Sullivan and asked for comment on the matter. So look, if nothing is said, then O'Sullivan, I guess, doesn't want to address it. Otherwise, he has the platform to do it, to apologize or to answer for it. But if he doesn't say anything, I think that says a lot about the situation and the man himself too. So I don't know. I just feel like some sort of actual apology is warranted here. But anyways, there's your Kevin O'Sullivan situation, and we'll get back to the baseball. Graham says, did Brian Bailey get a video of O'Sullivan actually saying anything? I would love to know exactly what he really says. Yeah, there's 2 videos now on social media, Graham. Bailey did not record it, but there's a video of him dog cussing the site rep, and I believe Coastal Carolina personnel available on Twitter. If you search for it, you can find it. So there's video out there. All right, we'll get a break in. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show after this.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your roof is a vital part of protecting your home and family from dangerous storms and hurricanes. At Assist Roofing, we install and maintain metal roofing that provides precise protection. Add value to your home while lowering utility costs with a fortified roof to last a lifetime. With 0% financing, grants, and Energy Star Green Roofing tax credit available. Call us to schedule a free consultation so you can weather any storm with confidence.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color.
not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut and color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
If you are interested in living longer and living stronger, Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine is accepting new patients for a limited time. Finding a caring physician can be a challenge. Dr. Billy Smith is board certified in physical medicine and lifestyle medicine and has been practicing in the area for many years. Call for an appointment now to Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine, 252-364-1108 in Greenville. That number again is 252-364-1108.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
Loyal and bold, we're the purple and golds.
Yo ho ho!
And we're back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, final segment here. Few minutes left in the show on this Monday, June 2nd edition. Reaction Monday. Pirates baseball season comes to an end. Again, we'll have a lot of coverage going forward on the state of the roster, the transfer portal, all that good stuff. I know many questions about that. Just really want to kind of relive the regional today. We are going to take the show through June. We'll take July off and then be back in August for football season. Although we are going to start some football coverage this week. We'll have our opponent previews beginning later this week. We'll kick it off with Corey Smith of Pack Pride later on this week, so stay tuned for that as we start to leak into football coverage as well. Johnny Stats is in the comments section. He always has some good numbers, and here he says, the Pirates were the only team to hold Coastal under 4 runs in their last 21 games. So Coastal, of course, has won 21 in a row as they head to the Super Regional. Unfortunately, the Pirates could not get a run on the board. Certainly had their chances in those middle innings. Could not get a big hit when they needed to. Lose 1-0. Season comes to an end. And Philip Pilkington back in the 94.3 The Game studio producing today. This season is so interesting. Like the totality of it. 2 weeks ago, everybody was ready for it to be over. And now it's like people are I don't want to say distraught, maybe heartbroken a little bit more that it came to an end. Like somebody posted on our site, I'm ready for next season already. It just makes, it just makes such a difference. Like sports are crazy, man. Everybody was like, I'm just done with this season. I'm checked out. And now it's like everybody was super invested again. We got a ton of people watching the show right now. And it's just like, it's amazing what a little run like this can do in terms of building hope and optimism for the future.
Can you say deja vu? Are we reliving the fall football season again?
It does feel very similar.
I guess the difference is we ended the fall football season on a victory over State, but there was a time where it was like, oh my goodness, ready for this to be over. But it is funny how that works, man. It's but it speaks to the character of the team. You know, not every team could pull us through those emotions. There are a lot of teams that would have quit, that would have made us jumping for joy that the season was over. But not a lot of Pirate baseball teams, not a lot of Cliff Godwin coached baseball teams would do that. And a lot of Cliff Godwin coached baseball teams would do what they went out there and did, and that's make us disappointed that it's over. So credit to the young men in the locker room as well as the older men that are running the locker room. They did a great job, and yeah, I was disappointed last night it was over. But hey, man, just be glad that it happened. We had a great run. It was a fun last couple weeks, and guess we can now enjoy summer a little bit. Now we can just get back and watch golf and tennis and a bunch of other sports that you just watch casually.
We'll talk Super Regionals and College World Series if we get to that point. What shot do you give Coastal going to Auburn? I honestly think with their pitching, man, I think this Coastal team's legit. I think they're one of the best teams in the field, and if they make it to Omaha, a legit shot to win it all.
I think so. They're definitely, I think, I shouldn't even say they're built more for regional than super regional because they do have top-end arms. Sometimes depth gets you through the best, the 4-team double elimination, and true arms get you through the super regional or the best 2 out of 3 site. But I think they're really built to win a World Series. They're the best team in the country? No, but I give them a good shot going to Auburn. Auburn hasn't been extremely consistent this year, but no team has. And heck, Vandy was the first #1 overall seed to not even make the regional championship game. So after a chalky NCAA basketball tournament, we got the first #1 overall women's softball team to not even make supers, and then Vandy didn't do what they didn't do in baseball. So, hey man, this is fun, and this is why we watch.
All right, we're about out of time. Final question from Travis before we get out of here. He says, didn't get to watch the entirety of the game, but understand the wind played a large factor on Burse's F7 with the bases loaded. How much of a factor did the wind play in the outcome? The wind was swirling all weekend inside Springbrook Stadium. I looked at the flag when he hit that ball, and it was dead. There was no wind, I think, either way, and so that played a role. And maybe, the ball at times was carrying to left field. Like on Irby's home run, and on one occasion to opposite field on Dixon's home run, the ball was carrying a little bit to left center, left field, and in that occasion the wind died. So it is what it is. That's baseball, but ECU got the benefit as well a few times with the wind. So it is what it is. All right, we are out of time. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Fun show. We'll continue to diagnose this ECU baseball season, talk about the state of the roster moving forward in the coming days, so be sure to tune in for that. We'll also dive into our football opponent previews later this week as well as we start to turn the page to football season.